I didn't know it was my luck to get to follow Jonathan, but I've dealt with Jonathan, known him for years, and he always has kept the fun part in the business. But anyway, I won't try to bore you with the slow motion 5-second follow-up of images, but I just put these images up here for two reasons. One, to show you things that I've learned with and handled over the years, things I liked. Most of them are from the Nelson Atkins Museum. There's quite a few Asian art collections. I've been fortunate to work with Asian collections. But the other thing is, I always find the object, that's where I've learned from and the institutions I worked at. And also, when I go back and like the Nelson Atkins in Kansas City, I stand there and just laugh. I start talking. These are like old friends of mine, you know. You get to meet these objects and stuff that you've handled and worked with so many years. But, so my address here is talking about collaborations and networking and how I got into the business and so on and so forth. But I started out with, I'm very fortunate in my career with working different places, as I said earlier, different projects and things I've worked on and places I've worked at. But it's just the way the ball's bounced, okay? I mean, a lot of people think I've been crazy saying the different things I've done, but I've gotten to be fortunate to be involved in a lot of different things, met a lot of different people, worked a lot of different places, and it all combines out. To me, it's a very good, fortunate thing. So I've been lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Also, when people ask me, you know, and I've only got 5 minutes, and everybody that knows me knows I can talk for an hour or more on this, but the thing about, you know, I've always been good about asking questions and stepping through the door and asking. That's what I've always promoted with my staff and stuff. It's like, ask me the question. I don't know what you're thinking. I can't read your mind, but let's see if we can figure this out. And curiosity, I've always been, even ever since I was a kid, building things, making things. I grew up on a farm in the Midwest in Iowa and dealing with, you know, sort of building things. My mother always collected antiques. So anyway, dealing with after graduate school, I ended up working at a commercial company called Smith Kramer Fine Arts, which did traveling exhibitions, and I was their project manager. And right off, I started getting into management stuff because I was curious, and so the boss always said, well, here, you do it. And then I went to the Nelson Atkins Museum, which a lot of these slides are from. We did a lot of, the first week I was there in 1987, we got the Henry Moore collection donated to their 17 acres, the Hall Family Foundation, Hallmark Cards Family Foundation. So immediately I was thrown into rigging and handling large sculptures. So anyway, Nelson Atkins was where I grew up. That's where I always talk about a lot. That's where I got my education. Encyclopedic museum, very quality museum. And I learned a lot. There was a lot of mentors of mine there that helped me get along. Conservators, my boss, the registrars, people, this is how we do it here. They were serious about how we do it. So I learned from a very good beginning. As that changed and went on, sometimes that wasn't the case at other institutions, but not nearly as much as I give credit to the Nelson Atkins. The other thing is I started getting involved in outside because I was always curious, so I was trying to find out ways to meet other people. Because in the early days, back in my days when I started in the late 80s, is the fact that, you know, we didn't really have computers yet, and we had telephones, and even if you were a boss, you had to call up somebody or find out who somebody else was at another institution to call them up. I mean, I could sit there and smoke a cigarette in my office, but I couldn't get a hold of anybody else. And I did smoke a lot of cigarettes back then in my office, in the museum. But the thing is, as time went on and such, you know, getting to know people and getting involved. 1991, I got asked by the Registrars Committee of AAM to become the second chair of PACCIN. So in 1991, I became PACCIN and got involved in that. And I was thrilled because a lot of my friends that I had met through other institutions or people coming, like conservators or couriers coming. I'd meet people, so on and so forth. But with PACCIN, it gave me the opportunity to meet everybody. I mean, this networking situation. And we're all here for a reason. We're all here for one reason. That's what I always said every time I've spoken at a PACCIN conference. We're all here for this one reason. So anyway, as over the years working with PACCIN, and we became independent from Registrars Committee, we became a separate professional interest committee at AAM, and of course now involving out, PACCIN's became a 501(c)(3), a private, a nonprofit. So it keeps growing and such. But the thing is, it's always been a networking capability, and it's always been for me a great love to get up in front of people talking and then have people ask me questions, even 6 months down the line, get a hold of me and speaking about situations. But the topic I wanted to address is dealing with staff and the situations of working with staff and how to promote their professional development. So a lot of my professional development, I had to push my foot through the door and get people to support me. I remember one time with the director, Nelson Atkins, we made 3 publications in PACCIN early on in the early 90s. And they were being sold, and they were hitting we sold on every continent. And they're cheap, 15 or 25 bucks for the 3 publications. But it was getting out there. But my director was always like, you don't need, why are you involved in this stuff? So one day he came up to me and said, can you bring these 3 volumes down to the board meeting? I said, finally, I got through to him, Finally, he's supporting me. And he was thrilled. He was showing the board of directors the books I did for PACCIN. But it was a collaborative effort. PACCIN was a collaborative effort, just like it is now. You're all coming here, and the organizers are setting up. All this stuff's a group effort. But anyway, in all this wonderful stuff, I made the comment in the title about challenges. And the thing is, with challenges is networking and socializing. And I said before, in the early days, we didn't have computers, and we weren't like the registrars. We couldn't get on the phone talking about a loan coming in from another group, and you get to chatting, oh yeah, my birthday's next week, this sort of stuff. You didn't get to know people. So as a good friend, John Mulaney, used to say, well, we're bottom feeders, we're just down in the basements working. Well, as we came up and we met each other, I remember the first time I met John Mulaney up at Minneapolis, in Minneapolis about a conference. We had pictures. I had photographs and he had Polaroids. And we're looking at our stuff. He goes, where'd you learn that? Or where'd you learn that? Or Merv Richards came here one day and, we were talking about how we met. But as we kept getting involved and growing and PACCIN and stuff, we're able to get out of the bottom feeder mentality. And the other thing I always hated because I was always trying to promote myself and as well as my colleagues or my staff, but get out of that victimization crap. I'm a victim. And it's like I said earlier about the guy that said, well, that was at the first PACCIN conference in Williamstown, Mass, when the guy said, well, I've been working for 20 years and I've never gotten a really good raise. And I said, well, did you speak up? And he said, no, blah, blah, blah. And afterwards I got him. He came up to me and goes, what are you talking about? How do you do it? And I said, you got to open your mouth and you got to support yourself. You got to back yourself. You got to push. And Julia followed up with that earlier today. You got to self-promotion. And not self-promoting in an egotistical way, but pushing yourself and then turn around and help support your staff, make it easier for them. But anyway, it's because as preparators and art handlers and artifact handlers, 90% of the work we do is we're the ones handling the object. I've always argued that with conservators. When the conservatives say, well, I know how to do this, and I said, how often have you dealt it? You've got me up here moving it. And so, we're the ones moving it. And so getting a good working relationship with conservators, because it's a very close-knit relationship and building on. So in this working situation, networking within yourselves, setting up training and such within your institution or within your company of who you can work with and how you help create manuals, this sort of stuff. I know at the Nelson Atkins years ago, I headed up a group I was the head of preparation, the head of conservation, head of registration. We put together these manuals, art handling manuals, and I've done this over the years privately in my consulting work for people to help get them started to get a picture of what you do. And once you get the manual together, you've really seen how much you've done.
We're running out of time.
Okay, that's for, as I said earlier, I could talk for a long time, but get a hold of me. I'm always able to chat with you. Thank you.